Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this regular board meeting of the Thompson-Nicola Regional District for Thursday, December the 11th, 2025. The TNRD acknowledges that we connect with many First Nations across our vast regional district, and today we are located in Tk'emlúps-Secwepemc territory, situated within the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation. The TNRD appreciates the partnership that we have with Tk'emlúps-Secwepemc, and we respect the territory and land on which we gather today. Chair's announcements. Film Commission update. The film My Secret Santa was 100% filmed in the TNRD region in 2025. It is now on Netflix, and it is one of the most popular streamed movies in Canada right now, showing we cannot get enough of our Secret Santas. There will be an in-person screening at Sun Peaks Resort on December 14th, and details are available on Eventbrite. Niskonlith Indian Band MOU ceremony. The TNRD will formally be signing a memorandum of understanding with Niskonlith Indian Band on December 18th, 2025. The event will take place here in the TNRD boardroom from 2 to 4 p.m. And we are excited to be able to advance another one of our First Nations partnerships. Holiday waste reduction tips. We've already heard from Director Newstater about the importance of reusing tissue paper. And the TNRD wants you to spread joy, not junk, this Christmas season. So a lot of the things that people throw in the garbage over the holidays can actually go in your curbside recycling bin, including wrapping paper, anything made out of cardboard or paper, plastic cutlery, tinfoil, and foiled dishes. You can take a lot of your holiday junk. This is here, and this isn't me. Your holiday junk, I don't judge, to a local depot, including your old light strings, gift bags, glass jars, and styrofoam. Also, real Christmas trees are accepted for free at all eco depots and transfer stations from January 2nd to January 31st, as long as all the lights and decorations have been removed. Consider gifting experiences or giving your homemade cooking or baked goods to cut down on waste as well. If people are looking for more information and waste reduction tips, contact the Solid Waste Department or visit the webpage tnrd.ca/holiday recycling. Reminder that tomorrow morning, Mike will be taking our annual board photo, so please meet at the first floor atrium at 8:45 a.m. sharp and be ready to strike a pose. Christmas finery is optional, but encouraged. I have a few actual cards here, and I like reading these. This one is from Nicole Ball of Saanich Peninsula 4-H Beef and Swine Club. She says, "Dear TNRD, I wish to thank you for your continued support of the BC Ag Expo Sheep Show for 2025. I had the pleasure to attend for my first time and was awarded Grand Champion 4-H ewe Lamb, Champion 4-H ewe, Overall Supreme Champion ewe, and among many other titles with my ewe, lamb, and yearling. We appreciate your continued support of the 4-H program. Your contribution makes it possible for the members to be rewarded for their efforts and also in gaining knowledge and experience in agricultural skills." We have a card from Clinton Food Bank Society from Donna Walsh, the treasurer. "On behalf of the Clinton Food Bank Society, I wish to acknowledge and thank the TNRD for the donation of $750. It is very much appreciated. We depend on donations and grants to keep our facility open and distribute groceries to our needy clients. We are all volunteers and value the support that we can give them." Another 4-H card. This one is signed by the members of the Lower North Thompson 4-H Club. The members and leaders of the Lower North Thompson 4-H Club would like to thank you for your sponsorship of the 87th Provincial Winter Fair in Kamloops. Your support of youth development and generous donations are greatly appreciated by all of us. With heartfelt thanks, Lower North Thompson 4-H Club. And last but certainly not least, Dear TNRD Board, thank you for your incredible support in making the staff holiday party a success, from funding the party to donating a raffle basket. Your kindness and generosity are truly appreciated. Happy holidays from the TNRD Holiday Party Committee. All right, upcoming meetings. Today and tomorrow are our last meetings of 2025. January, on the 21st, we have an Electoral Area Directors Committee at 9 a.m. and Policy and Governance at 1:30. On the 22nd of January, we have a Hospital Board meeting at 10 a.m., regular board meeting at 1:30, and Thompson-Nicola Invasive Plant Management Committee at 9 a.m. on the 23rd. Today in your blue folders, you will find regular mail, UBCM 2025 ADM follow-up letter, UBCM 2025 resolution referred to a UBCM executive, BC Ombudsperson 2024-25 annual report email, communication regarding the museum in Merritt for Director Laird's request, and opposition to Bill M216 2025. Finally, in the event of an emergency, if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the safest exit doors, either at the rear of the room or the main entrance. Go down the staircase, exit the building, and assemble in the staff car parking lot at the rear of the Paramount Theatre. Please do not run or use the elevators. If you have issues with mobility, please advise the corporate office. We have 2 items to add to the agenda today. We have a request from Director Laird. He's requesting an exemption under the EA grant in aid policy under new business. That is in your blue folder. We have, correspondence from Southern Interior Local Government Association, also in your blue folder, and that is at this moment being added to information correspondence. Are there any other additions to or deletions from the agenda? Seeing none, could I get a motion, please? Director Houghton, seconded by Director Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have the minutes of the regular board meeting held on November 20th, 2025. Second. Director O'Reilly moved, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. All right, delegations and presentations. We have 2 of our MLAs present. Unfortunately, MLA Peter Millibar from Kamloops Centre and MLA Lauren Dirksen from Caribou Chilcotin send their regrets. But we have with us Ward Stamer, the MLA for Kamloops North Thompson, and we have Tony Luck, the MLA for Fraser-Nicola. Welcome back, MLA Stamer.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Absolutely. I'm quite sure that we won't be using up the full 30 minutes of time that we've been allotted on this opportunity, as long as MLA Luck doesn't get on too much. But having said that, yes, Lauren and Peter and Roz send their regrets. Roz is our new caucus whip, so she's already in Vancouver, and Peter and Lauren are on their way. And as we can all see and feel what's going on with the flooding down in the Lower Mainland, it's going to be quite a challenge. Lauren wanted me to mention a few of the directors by name and how appreciative he was through the season. He particularly wanted me to mention Director Grenier and Chair Roden on the work that they've done in Savanaugh with the derailment, including all the thanks to the TNRD staff through that process. Also, there were some FSR road things that they wanted to talk through. He wanted to express his thanks to Director Smith, Mayor Stanke, and Director Thorpe for their advocacy throughout the TNRD on behalf of the region. As you can tell, there's lots of things going on. One of the councillors the other night came up to me and said, well, now that the House isn't in session, you probably have some holidays. And I said, no, I don't think so. But no, we're really happy to be back. For myself personally, I appreciate the relationships that I've built in the room with everyone here. I've always been one phone call away. If there's anything going on, like my dad said, I don't like surprises. And so if there's anything going on that my office with our staff that's here and Peter's staff, please give us a call. It's a Team Kamloops approach for me. And I really look forward to working with you in the next year. I know that it's an election year for you folks, and from what I hear, it might be an election year for us too. So we'll see how that turns out. But again, I want to thank everyone in the room for their advocacy, their hard work for the region, and to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Tony?
Thanks, Ward. Pretty much ditto what Ward has said, and I really appreciate. I think it was about a year ago that I stood here shaking in my boots as a rookie MLA. I didn't think I'd be here a year later, and I'm really happy to be here and really been working hard in Victoria and really appreciate the relationships I have made with some of the mayors and councillors and EAs around my part of the riding as well. It's been a really exciting year of getting to know my role and where I fit and where we fit and work together. And it's been really exciting year. Lots of things happening. As Ward says, we might be in election. There's always that threat hanging over us this last number of months that we might go to election. I sure hope not. I think there's still a lot of work to do in the province and things like that. We're really excited about some of the work that we have done in the Ledge. We've managed to get some private members. Actually, the first private member bill passed in a very long time is from the Conservative Party of BC. So I'm really happy to have done that work in there with Jody Tour, who got her bill passed. It was for mental health for mothers, recent mothers and things like that. So it's really, really good, some of the work we've been doing there. Just some update maybe from the Ledge as well as I know Bill 25 was passed into law. So some of you were already talking about that being challenged with that. Linda Hepner and myself were the committee leads on that. We may have found a little bit of a loophole in there for some of the smaller communities, so we'll get back to you on that soon, help you, especially around your infrastructure piece and everything. A lot of these bills were rushed through and not with proper consultation. We're not happy about that. We work very, very hard to try to put some proper amendments forward and try to get them to slow down the process, but they have their ways of wanting to do things, and we would really want to see if we could slow that down and change some things, so we're certainly looking at that. And I know the challenge you have as a regional district, and of course, you go back to your communities as councils. Really hard with the infrastructure piece right at the moment. It's a real challenge for everybody, and that's the piece that we're really concerned about. So we got to find ways to slow the process down to make sure that you guys are getting your infrastructure in place and find the funding to do that. I know that's hard to say that funding. It is an issue in the province. We are broke, pretty much. I hate to say that. I'm going to be right front and honest, and that's what it looks like. We're not sure what the budget deficit will be next year. We'll find out probably in February, March. But it's been a real challenge for this government to find the resources they need to drive it forward. We will try to help them figure that out as we move forward in the next budget, as we've done for Peter Melibar, of course, former mayor of Kamloops and that. He's doing a great job as their finance critic. He really points things out. He's really good at holding this government to account. Really glad to be working with him here as well. But having said all that, it's been really nice to be back here and addressing you and saying thank you for all your hard work. Just as Ward says, it takes many to look after the village, and really appreciate all the hard work all of you do, because it has not been an easy couple of years in this province, and especially the Southern Interior and especially our area. Again, we were reminded last night when I went to bed, it seemed like it was pretty quiet, and all of a sudden I wake up and see my phone at 6 o'clock and road closures. I can't get out of Merritt South, right? And so we've had a challenging couple of years, and we just got to continue to work hard together and everything. So just to close, I'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, safe and happy holidays, and a Happy New Year. And so hope you'll have a great holiday season. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, to you and to all your colleagues on all sides of the aisle in Victoria for the hard work that you do on behalf of all your constituents. It's a big responsibility, so thank you for stepping up and taking that on behalf of so many people and giving them a voice in Victoria that they might not otherwise have. You've sat back down, so I take it you're not taking questions. That's all right. No, we all know where to find you. So. Okay, Director Houghton has a question.
I'd like to thank Tony and Ward and all the staff for looking after us EA directors in the interior. We all seem to run to you folks. You're very rural minded, all of you. And I just got to say, since Ward left this TNRD, the meetings have sure been shorter and a lot quieter.
But have they been as thorough there, Director Hall?
Ward phoned me the other night. Ward phoned me the other night, and he was kind of shaking, and he was really long-winded. And so I went and I saw his doctor this morning, and he gave me a new prescription for Mr. Stamer, and it's extra strength this time, Ward, since you've moved to Victoria. Here you are, Ward. Merry Christmas.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And if I can add, the last time Dr. Houghton was gracious enough to give me a prescription, there was a member of this room that accidentally on purpose took these meds. So the person to my right was that person. And maybe I could just hand those back over to him because he may need them some more after looking at that picture that was showed up at the beginning of the meeting that I think there's a lot of work to be done. But thanks very much for the support. I appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, Ward.
I think we said two. So one other question.
Anyone, come on, hands up. First hand I see is the one who gets the lucky question.
Yeah. No questions.
No questions.
Oh,
I know that we had, just if I may, Madam Chair, I know your finance officer brought that to my attention again with the pipeline situation and the change in the appraisal. And I reminded the finance officer about the fact that Peter Millibar actually does have a motion in the House in regards to allowing to increase the mill rate past 0.4 so that we can adjust it accordingly. So if they're dead set and not making any changes and allowing those losses to be incurred by the municipalities and by the TNRD and other regional districts around the province, then we may have a mechanism in place to be able to overcome those shortfalls that you're looking at. I see on the screen with your, 26, 2034 budget, pardon me, there's going to be some significant impacts to everyone in this room if we don't at least make sure that we keep ourselves whole. I know Mayor Blackwell and I myself have had this conversation. He, in particularly in his community, will be affected very negatively if these changes are made, and we'll do everything we can within our power to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I appreciate your advocacy. Any additional information that you can provide in relationship to the negative impacts to the region is greatly appreciated, and we'll do everything we can to stop this in its tracks. So thank you for that.
Thank you. All right. Our next delegation, Aero Transportation Systems and Kruger Kamloops Pulp.
Tommy.
We have Greg Kilba and Tom Hoffman here to talk to us. So good afternoon, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my name's Tom Hoffman. I am the much younger and less verbose cousin to Ward Stamer. Now you can go. I got my shot. So Greg Kilba with Aero Transportation and I are here to talk to you today about some opportunities that we would like to explore with your support. Kruger Kamloops Pulp, where I work, we actually have two mills on site. We have the pulp mill, everybody knows about that, but there's also an energy plant on site. That plant produces about 63 megawatts of power. And in order to do that, we consume about 240,000 BDTs of hog annually. That's about 12,000 truckloads of hog that is required to run that plant. We are a net exporter of power. So what do I mean by that? We do consume our power on site, but we don't consume it all. We are a net exporter. Historically, we secured almost all of our hog, well, in fact, all of it was from sawmills locally. But if you haven't heard lately, there's been a number of sawmills facing closure. And I won't go down that path because we'll be here all afternoon. The net result is that we need to find alternate sources of hog to run our power plant. And that's where we have engaged the contractor Aero to assist us with that. You will have also heard this week that we're exploring a hydrogen plant on site. It's a joint venture partnership with Kamloops. And in order to produce that hydrogen, we need to use a process called electrolysis. And electrolysis requires a lot of power, about 10 megawatts to be precise. that plant would produce about 32 tons of oxygen and about 4 tons of hydrogen annually. In order to do all of this, again, I come back to the fact that we need hog fuel to power the energy plant. And that's where our contractor, Aero Transportation, comes in. And he's going to explain to you what's involved with that. Greg?
Thank you, Tom. Well, I'm excited to be here. Is somebody able to go through the slides or advance the slides for me when we get to that point? Perfect. Okay. All right, this big button is the next slide. Awesome. Okay. So anyways, I want to be able to talk about just how we maximize forest fiber, how we benefit the environment and the local economy by grinding versus burning, and how people within Kamloops have helped us to do that. So ever since I started in the forest industry, early in my 20s, I was responsible. One of my jobs was actually burning the slash piles. And I remember burning those slash piles, and the energy that was created by burning that slash pile, I always thought, there's got to be a way to harness that energy. And so when grinding and biomass came along, naturally I was interested. And so the problem with burning these piles, the way we traditionally did for years, is that they emit greenhouse gases. They emit black carbon. They also emit methane. Those are pretty much eliminated when the material is burnt in Kruger's boilers. I'll talk more about that in a bit. So here you can see we're grinding. I don't know, is that a PDF, or can you play that? Oh, it's a PDF. Okay. So anyways, in this picture here, we're actually taking a slash pile with the loader and we're feeding the grinder, and it grinds the material into usable pieces for Kruger's boiler. And though you can't see it clearly in this picture, there's a truck under that grinder, and that truck has enough material in it when it goes to Kruger that when they burn it and create energy out of it, there's enough power in that one truck to power a home for a year. So that's a piece that I didn't even really understand until about 6 months ago and started to do the research. We have an energy plant in Fort St. James, so just got to know things a little bit more. And I love being able to share that piece because it really opens a lot of people's eyes when you tell them that one load could power their home for a year. I'm not going to go into a lot of these details here, but there's some more stats and I can share those. I got some handouts for any of those that want it, but you know, there's lots of benefits of grinding versus burning. Basically, on the greenhouse gas emissions, we reduced the emissions by 98% by putting it in Kruger's boilers. There's no smoke, as you'll see in some pictures later. There's no smokes coming out of the Kruger boiler stacks. It's they've got filters on it. They've got everything is in a controlled burn. They have just the right amount of oxygen burning that fiber so that it's a real hot burn. And we're not only producing power, but we're reducing those harmful pollutants. Each load that goes to that mill, we're producing 1.5 man days per load of work. So that starts right from the logging end of things, but it's a significant revenue source for the local economy. When we burn it, there's zero of that forest waste is used. When we grind it, we're upwards of 70 to 85% utilization of that waste. Just recently, we've been grinding on the Rossmore Lake fire. Doug Houghton's property is one of those colors on the list there. he invited me to actually come to this board meeting, so thank you for that.
Welcome, Greg.
So there was a number of, you could see that list of people, including our, some woodlots, and some of our First Nations partners. And we've been able to work with all those people, and they all had a choice to make. They could either burn those piles, or they could ask us to grind them. And 5 years ago, those piles would likely have been burnt. But since we've been grinding and there's been a need for that energy, we've been grinding those piles. So I got to thank the community and the landowners for giving us that opportunity to get the fiber to Kruger. Out of those, there's actually 1,400 loads. There's a little bit of a mistake here, but there was 1,400 loads in there, and that 1,400 loads will power 1,400 homes for a year. So that was just 4 months. We have 2 grinders. That's just considering one. 2 grinders. Now we're producing enough power to power 10,000 homes. So that's 25% of the count's homes can be powered by a renewable resource that was, only a few years back was being burnt. If those slash piles had been burnt, if the landowners had choose to burn versus grind, it would have been like emitting 12 million liters of gasoline, like lighting a match, 12 million liters of gasoline. So each week that we grind, if you do the math, 1 million liters, it would take you 500 years in a car to burn 1 million liters of gasoline. So 1 million liters of gasoline in 1 week, it's like taking 5 cars off the road for 100 years. You can do the math however you want, but it's significant. So here's just a little talk about about supporting the rural economies. The picture in the far right, I'd like to draw your attention to that. That's our crew from a couple of years ago. We now have probably a crew twice that size and twice that many trucks and loaders. And you'll see behind the trucks, there's some grind. That's the material that we produce through the grinders. And then you see just behind that, you'll see 2 stacks. Those are the stacks that I was talking about. Those stacks would have been running in this picture. So they're burning that grind fiber, yet there's not any smoke coming out of those columns. It's because they're burnt at the right temperatures. They got filters on there and stuff, and so it's a clean burn. So again, here's some of the sources. I've got it in a handout if anybody'd like one, and my information if you're interested. Thank you again for the president taking your time.
I just want to add, so Greg did a very good job of outlining, historically logged sites, fires, but we also have had the grinder working, and the reason I bring it up is Doug is here. We've had for the wildland urban interface to reduce the fire hazard in and around homes that we're all, of course, concerned with, and finding it difficult to get insurance for, given the fire history that we've seen recently. Madam Chair, back to you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the presentation. Questions? Yes, I see. Oh, 4 hands in a row. My goodness. Okay, I'm going to take them in order. Directors Getz, O'Toole, Onslow, and Grenier.
Thank you for the presentation. Tom, I have a question for you. You were talking about hydrogen creation. We've been talking about the city of Merritt and working with a group called Caribou Clean Fuels. When that happens, you create 2 things, pure oxygen and carbon. What do you plan on doing with the carbon? The carbon that was going to be created out of ours would be going to the Barkman plant for fly ash. And I was just wondering.
Yeah, you're talking about using it out of
a fuel.
Out of fiber. Our process that we've outlined is an electrolysis process. So you bring in water and you separate, so water is H2O.
Yeah, H2O, yeah, so you
You
get two,
separate the hydrogen and the oxygen, we have no carbon.
no carbon comes out of your process? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director O'Toole. And then I have Directors Onslow, Grenier, Blackwell, Smith, and Middleton. Director O'Toole.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for your presentation. A couple of questions, just kind of, when you talk about, you define as waste wood fiber. So in this process, is this typically only, you also said in that latter part there, Tom, that some fire interface, but is it typically only like burnt standing material from wildfires that you're interacting with?
It's typically slash piles. So after we've harvested a block, whether it's been burnt or green, once they remove the saw logs, there's a waste component, whether it's crooked butts, rotten treetops, all that gets left in a pile. And that was what was typically burnt. That's the majority of what we grind.
Okay, thank you. Supplemental to that. So in these situations, then the stumpage fees and the logging aspect has already occurred. You're dealing with what's laying on the ground. Hypothetically, when we're thinking in terms of, say, like dead standing, is that something that is used in this kind of a model?
You want to answer?
Sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can't afford to go logging and then produce hog fuel from it. It's just cost prohibitive. So this is typically, and again, there are opportunities. So for example, in the WUI, in the wildland urban interface, there are opportunities. But no, for us to go in and harvest trees and then produce hog is, it would be cost prohibitive.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to add too, like that's in our model, right? Our cheapest source of, we're lucky in BC. We've got hydropower, which is generated fairly cheap, but it's not to say I've sold or we've delivered stuff to Drax, who then makes pellets, and then they go to Europe. They can afford to pay for more of the fiber because they don't have the hydro that we have. So, anyways, it's just a point I'd like to make.
Thank you very much.
Director Onslow.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. My question is, what is the furthest distance away from the mill in Kamloops that's economical to retrieve the fiber from the slash piles?
Well, it's a bit of a complicated question because there's lots of factors in it. Hauling is one of our biggest expenses. So if we can get a B train to a site and load directly into a B train, it hauls more, so our hauling costs are cheaper. So the site has to be good. Typically, where we got a lot of our fiber is from logging slash, and the logging roads are difficult. So we have a very hard time getting our B trains there. But that being said, we've also got funding and help through FES BC. That's allowed us to go further distances. With the help of FES BC, we've been able to go to Vavenby. For example, we're going to be doing some grinding for Interfor, some of their slash piles in Vavenby. We went to Salmon Arm, ground some for canoe. We've went as far as Chasm and ground some up in the Chasm area. So we can go further out, but it's just a matter of how much the government's willing to help get that fiber to the facilities rather than burn it.
Thank you, Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Two unrelated questions. The first is the process, this new venture that has been announced. I had a constituent ask, would there be any increase in odor from that process as a result, if that moves forward, the new hydrogen process?
Are you talking about the hydrogen project or?
Yeah, I'm talking about the one that was on CBC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hydrogen project, again, I'll reiterate, it's in a feasibility and engineering design stage right now. It's not close to a final investment decision yet. Having said that, no, the short answer is no. The byproducts are strictly hydrogen and oxygen. If anything, it'll improve the amount of oxygen in the valley.
And the second question, and this came out of the UBCM meeting from last year that you were at, Tom. How long is hog fuel, how long after a fire is hog fuel usable?
So if you're talking about the standing wood waste, we've had, I've ground slabs that have been 30 years old. So the standing wood waste that's out there would be no different in my opinion. I'm sure that we could grind wood that was burnt in the 2003 fires, but it's just a matter of making it economical enough to be able to get it to Kruger. So there's a lot of cost in getting that fiber, but it's definitely usable.
So there's a lot of burnt wood in and around the southern part of Area J and Logan Lake area. And I'm just wondering, is there a best before date on that?
Probably 2055. Realistically, it's got a long shelf life as long as it's standing. And
It's not the same as lumber. So lumber stands that are affected by fire, you've got a maximum of 2 years before those trees are unusable to produce lumber. Chips, we can go a little longer, but there is depending on how badly the log is rotten, you can't produce a good quality chip out of it. But hog fuel, you can produce it years into the future.
Director Blackwell.
Yeah, thanks. District Clearwater has two biomass heating systems, one for Sportsplex and one for our town hall, both of which you would never know that that's what we're doing there unless you were aware of the chips or whatever going in. There's almost no emissions. Within, I don't know, on a good day, within 15 feet of the stack, you can't even see the steam. My question to both of you, noting that the North Thompson Valley and other areas were left out of the BC Hydro call for power, and it doesn't seem that biomass or cogen is anywhere in BC Hydro's call for power for new electrical sources. Any idea why that is? Because it seems like there's an opportunity here, especially when you're talking about low quality and chip and residuals.
Yeah, and I'm not I'm not qualified to explain BC Hydro's logic, but I will tell you that we've tried to increase our rates so that we can go farther afield and secure more hog fuel. There's a power plant in Williams Lake that was very nearly shut down because of, well, there was two reasons: access to fiber as well as the BC Hydro rate. So I don't understand, and I'm not going to try and put myself in jeopardy of explaining their situation, but I will say that you're right. There are. I mean, we're talking about electric vehicles and new electric appliances, et cetera. I think there's more room, but there's a bigger, and I don't understand all of the intricacies that go along with that.
Thank you.
I would answer that. Just my only thought is, I don't know that we've done a great job of explaining it to BC Hydro. They probably don't understand how much usable waste fiber there is out there. That'd be my first thought.
Director Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. I'd like to know what the maximum diameter you can grind and what's left in the area after you've left doing all of your grinding.
If we go back to that slide, we could show where we've ground just before we. Anyways, we can go back to that, but we can grind up to 40-inch diameter log. So pretty much anything. Anything that's typically over 40 inches could be something like a cedar that usually is rotten, and we can make it smaller to go into the grinder.
Thank you. Any further questions? Director O'Toole and Director Houghton, and then Director O'Toole.
Yeah, I'll make this short. Thanks, Greg and Tom, for coming today. when we logged our places and our neighbors on that list, we have our merchantable wood that, you know, goes to Interfor or Weyerhaeuser, now Gorman. And then we've got I would say the non-merchantable that is still too good to go into the grind, but we took it to town, to Kruger, to River City Fiber. Now, is that ground for chips for paper, or would that be added to your hog? Because all the, I would say the non-merch wood, because we cleaned the bush right out to nothing, there's nothing left. You know, we paid the cost of the logging. We didn't get anything in return, but we got the wood to town for you guys, so we wouldn't have to burn it or grind it. So I've just never figured that out, what happens to it when it gets to Kruger.
Good question. And thank you for your support. Doug, as Greg will attest, you've been a great supporter. So as I said earlier, we can't afford to go logging. It's cost prohibitive, but we try and maximize the utilization of, so, you know, if it's suitable for plywood, that's where it should go. If it's suitable for lumber, that's where it should go. If we can make chips out of it, yes, we'll take it to River City and we produce chips. There is a very nominal amount of hog that's produced. It's just the sawdust, if you will, as a result of the chipping process. Less than 1%. So short answer is that yes, that wood that was sent to River City was used to produce chips, which produces pulp.
Director O'Toole and then Director Karpak.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up, Tom, you said about it's not financially viable to go to that step of the physical logging aspect. In your joint experience, are you seeing, and I asked this on the Merritt Sun Peaks, and in a recent meeting we had around our wildfire interface, is we've got a large forest of dead standing northwest of the West Bowl Chair. And the struggle we're running into is it's essentially only really good for hog fuel, but it's getting the province to understand that traditional stumpage fees make it virtually, the resort, the lift company would be happy to log it and not make money as long as they don't lose money. But we've got this massive potential matchstick at the edge of our community, but we can't, do you see in your experience mechanisms where the province might look at that in a different way to kind of reduce stumpage fees so that it's at least viable for hog fuel?
Yeah, the short answer is Forest Enhancement Society of BC. And Greg alluded to that FESBC earlier in his presentation. There is funding available, although it's limited. And typically, if you can engage through FESB through a First Nations initiative, there is usually support there. So I would explore that perhaps with SIMC or Tecumloops and explore it that way.
Director Karpak.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Curious, it's been about 30 years since I used to work for TOCL, and one of the big things back in the day was Forest Practices Code and coarse woody debris and fine woody debris and all the equation about how many pieces had to look of certain diameter and size. How does this come into, it looks like we're kind of almost vacuuming up a lot of what historically was supposed to be left behind. So I'm just curious where that fits in.
There's still coarse woody debris left, and there's no real cleanup. We're not targeting the coarse woody debris, so typically the loggers still have coarse woody debris that is left on site. What we're typically grinding is from the trees that they're expecting to get peelers out of or saw log, and then we're getting that waste and we're grinding that waste. So the coarse woody debris, there's still a requirement to leave that out on site.
If I may, a supplemental on that. Again, back in the day, we used to send full bunks of loads to be scaled in a mill, and now the mill dictates that they'll take a 12'6" and nothing more, or whatever it is, which means that you may have a 4-inch top and 10 feet, but it didn't make 12'6", so it gets thrown in the pile. And that's what we're looking at, I'm assuming, with this sort of process? No?
I would say in general, our slash piles are smaller than they were 10 years, 20 years ago. And the biggest reason I would say is that we're utilizing more pulp. So there might be a little less saw log on a piece that like you're talking about, but that still ends up coming into River City to make chips. And then we're half the value of chips that we're looking at. So it's basically anything that doesn't make that market like Tom was talking about, those different markets.
Director Sal.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering how mobile are these power producing boilers, and is there any plans to build more of them closer to some of the logging areas such as Vavenby and the North Thompson? Thank you.
Yeah, I can't speak to any portable power producers. We have power boilers on site at Kruger, and we produce the power there. The portable units that Greg was referring to are grinders. They go to the bush, they grind up the log that would otherwise be piled and burnt in the bush that generates carbon emissions. And instead of doing that, it's brought to Kruger, and we burn it in our power boiler. And as Mayor talked about, there is, you can't see it, it can't be monitored as far as emissions from the stacks at our site.
Thank you. Any other questions? Very interesting presentation. Some great questions, everyone. Thank you. And thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for your attention, and any and all support is much appreciated. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Smith, you still have your microphone on.
Oh.
Uh-oh. And we have another delegation. We have K2 Wind Power. We have a presentation from Interjex Environmental Manager Kate Schendel and West Bank First Nation Project Manager Braden Hollenstein to provide information on the K2 Wind Project. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you so much, Madam Chairperson and the board. We are so happy to be here and really appreciate your time. I had an opportunity in October to meet with TNRD staff Alexander Kraus and Dan Wallace. It was just a request for a early application meeting just to discuss permitting processes and zoning. And we had a great discussion, and they indicated that the board might enjoy hearing about our project. So we are here to introduce you to Interjex Renewable Energy, the K2 Wind Project, and also just we would love eventually, after we've had a few more engagement sessions, to receive a written endorsement from the board that we could submit with our permits to the BC Energy Regulator. And we also wanted to bring forward, perhaps not today, but as a takeaway item, a discussion on the TNRD Clean Energy Projects Processing and Referrals Policy. It's a fantastic policy. We really like it. Unfortunately, our project is a little too large, and it's written really specifically. So I understand from Alex that we are within the intent of the policy, but we are about 3 times too big. So an introduction, and so I would like to introduce my colleague, Braden Hollenstein, before I carry on. Braden is the Indigenous Project Manager from West Bank First Nation, my counterpart, and West Bank is our collaborator on the K2 Wind Project. WFN will be going to a referendum in April, at which point, hopefully, they will become our majority equity partners of the project. So Interjex Renewable Energy is a Canadian-owned company. Our head office is based out of Longueuil, which is a suburb of Montreal in Quebec. The company was started in 1990. We are really proud to be a company that designs, builds, owns, operates all of our sites. We are not in the process of building stuff to sell it off. We take a lot of pride and ownership in our operations. And I myself was on the operations side for a couple of years before switching over to project development. We are a global player. We started in Canada. predominantly with run-of-river hydro and then moving into wind. And through acquisitions, we have purchased all kinds of projects in the United States, including solar, wind, and more run-of-river hydro. We recently acquired some companies in Chile, and there we have predominantly solar, but we've also been branching into battery energy storage, and we also have quite a bit of wind in France. I'm going to apologize for this slide. Our communications department is based out of Quebec, who clearly do not understand British Columbia geography. So K2 is not actually in Castlegar. It is about 45 kilometers west of Kelowna on Highway 97C, right up in the Penasque area. We have quite a few different projects across British Columbia. We were part of about 15 years ago, the big uptick in run-of-river hydro. We currently have one run-of-river hydro, our Kite Creek project within the district. And K2, we were one of the successful proponents of the 2024 BC Hydro Call for Power. So getting into the specifics of K2 Wind, it is 40-ish kilometers west of Kelowna. Our lead collaborator is Westbank First Nation. Thanks, Braden, for being here today. We are also in discussions with Simpington, and hopefully they will come on. They also will be going to referendum in the spring, and it will be majority Indigenous equity-owned wind power. Right now, we are targeting just shy of 160 megawatts of energy. And I love these energy projects. So that's 40,000 BC households, and that will equal about 25 turbines, give or take. We will be doing many, many iterations of our layout and design over the next couple of years. We already have some LiDAR and some MET towers installed to help study the project area. And that's just a general idea of size. The wind turbines have been getting larger, so they're more efficient and less impactful on the environment. So we haven't entered into the procurement process yet, but we anticipate they'll be about that 125-meter hub height. This is the road we are walking. I'm not sure if everyone is aware. You probably have. I'm sure we're not the first of the new wind projects coming in the door to speak to you, but with the accelerated process and streamlined permitting process through the BCER, it's allowing all of this great renewable energy to come online a little bit faster than through the traditional multi-window ministry-based process. So we started in 2025. We undertook quite a few of our environmental and archaeological, geotechnical. A lot of the studies are well underway. We don't have results yet, so I have not included much of that today, but I'd be more than happy to come back and get into the nitty-gritty of the environment stuff, because that's my favorite anyway. Our project has a more relaxed timeline than some of the other projects that were part of the 2024 Call for Power. So we are hoping for our COD to be in 2031, which means we would be, assuming all permitting goes well, under construction, probably doing some forestry and clearing in late 2029, and then all of the civil works would begin in 2030. So you are our first district to come speak to. We have reached out to our IUL does touch on the district Central Okanagan and also Okanagan-Smilkameen. They both have either not responded or waived, so we're happy to be here. We also have over 100 different tenure holders within our investigative use license, and there's approximately 25 non-government organizations that we are also reaching out to. There are many First Nations in the surrounding area, not just Westbank. We are reaching out to all the nations in the ONA, as well as several other nations and assemblies. Interjects is not at all new to having Indigenous partners, and we take pride in the communities and relationships that we've built across Canada. So the map you've all been waiting for. This is the conceptual project layout. At the moment, this is definitely subject to change. The darker blue outline is our current investigative use license. And the dashed lines would be the roads connecting the wind turbines. I'm showing this slide because Interjex and Elemental Energy have just signed an agreement with BC Hydro to work on a shared point of interconnection. So Elemental has the Boulder Elkhart Wind Project. I'm not sure if they've been in to see you yet. And you can see in the northwest corner of that figure where BC Hydro has some preferred locations for that shared point of interconnection to connect to their 138 kilovolt line. Some of our early studies have indicated that the route from our project up to that shared point of interconnection goes through some very important it's spiritual and archaeological sites. So we are working with BC Hydro on that. And so stay tuned, more to come on where that shared point of interconnection lands. I think there is some work to do there. Project infrastructure. So I understand from my great conversation with the team here that we will be needing a building permit. The photo you're looking at is our most recently built project called Boswell Wind in Wyoming, which is a completely different environment if you've ever been down into Wyoming. Is that emergency for us? Are we good? No, okay. That building at Wyoming is quite large. It is probably the maximum size that we would be looking to build. I'm not sure it would fit into the environment up on the Pennask very well. Other features we would have in addition to the wind lines are 5 sets of feeder lines, the Interjex collector substation, which would ramp up the power to then get transmitted to that shared BC Hydro substation. We would have some laydown areas for the construction period. We anticipate quarrying the materials within the project footprint, and then again, that operations and maintenance building as shown there. We have many key milestones. I touched on a few of them already. Trying to wrap up as many of the studies as possible so we can move on to the permitting phases. There are going to be a few studies that will carry over into 2026, archaeology and geotech in particular. And then we hope to have our submission ready for submission to the BCER in October 2028 so that we can be under construction in the fall of 2029 with just some of the forest clearing and road prep. The actual civil construction would be in 2029. These are some of the studies. I won't go through them in detail, but I'm happy to speak to them. The reports are coming in now, so we don't have any of them published just yet. And then as far as the project economic benefits, there will be quite a few during the construction period. We anticipate 150 workers during the construction period. We are looking at staging and housing and accommodations for those workers and trying to create opportunities for the nations. And then during the operating period, which will stay with Interjex as the managing partner, there will be up to 10 great full-time jobs for wind turbine technicians from the area. In addition to that, there are many local and regional business opportunities, including surveying, website design, logging, road contracts. There's quite a bit. The list goes on and on. I have a 3-page document on it in my desk if anyone wants the details. But we anticipate it being a great generator for the local economy. And that's everything I have to say. I'm happy to open the floor up for questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Director Houghton, Director O'Toole, or Director Getz, Director O'Reilly, Director O'Toole, did I see your hand up? No? Okay, Director Houghton.
I'll make this quick. I'm from the cattle background in this province, and have you been in consultation with the local cattlemen's association in the area where you're gonna have these and got their blessing? Because I don't know how wind turbines and cows work together on the same piece of property, but they've been there a long time in most crown areas of this province. And I was wondering if you've been in consultation with the British Columbia Cattlemen's Association, plus the local tenure holders that have the grazing rights on that property.
Thank you. Thank you for the great question. Yes, we have reached out to the tenure holders. So just that initial letter inviting questions, we have definitely many more steps of consultation to go. The NGOs that I've listed, the Cattlemen's Association is listed. We are in the process of reaching out to the NGOs. We wanted to give West Bank and Interject some time to get our partnership solidified. We will be reaching out to them. What I can say though is Interject is a huge supporter of agri-energy. From what we've seen in Idaho and Wyoming and Quebec, the animals adjust very quickly to the presence of the turbines. They're quite happy to graze under them. And our project won't be gated. The roads will be open. Animals are happy, welcome to graze. It is extremely high up on the Penasque and very forested, but absolutely that use can continue. Yeah.
Director Getz.
Just a quick question. I do notice a lot of these turbines have been around for years and years and years. I'm assuming there's a shelf life on the blades. What happens with the blades when they get replaced, and how do you recycle them back in? Because I've seen pictures of fields of these blades that are used that go on forever. So I'm just wondering, is there a process or is that still being worked on? I'm curious.
Yeah, it is a new science in British Columbia coming along. So in Quebec, where our original wind farms are started, they are starting to come to the end of their power producing period. And we really are working quite hard on the end of life program in Quebec. So Interjex has partnered with a company called Fibe Cycle. They're based out of Montreal, and they have a fantastic early design stage. They are up and operating in Brazil, Texas, and now the Quebec plant is coming online, where they take the blades and they can shred the whole thing, not just the wood core, which is sort of the more desirable piece, but the fiberglass is the hard part to handle. They are now shredding that, and they have their own patented I don't even know the materials engineering of what they do, but they basically mix it with a polymer, and then it's an extrudable plastic with these great, I keep saying great, I'm sorry, I'm nervous, with high tensile strength properties that really reinforce anyone who's doing 3D printing with plastic. So we've partnered with them. They're establishing a footprint in BC. It's really hard because you have to have a constant supply of blades to create a business, and that won't be for 20, 25 years.
Just one other real quick question. We in Merit were looking at this a few years ago, and I think this is before a lot of the technology came about, but we were told some of our areas was too windy to actually have wind turbines because the brakes would constantly be on all the time. Is that something that's correct, or because I don't think at that time they had blades that could turn into the wind. They were kind of fixed. So I'm just wondering if is there an actual situation where it's too windy for these to be?
I suspect that is correct. I'm not a wind resource engineer. I'd have to defer that question to my colleagues. I know we spend a lot of time at our offices looking at the wind resource and selecting our sites. This site in particular, it has that BC Hydro transmission line available. There are quite a few logging roads. I think 54% of the project will be built on pre-existing roads. The wind resource is obviously really, really good there. And West Bank is a really interested and willing partner. So lots of reasons why we choose our project locations. I haven't heard of the risk lately of it being too strong. And I know the technology of the turbines is changing rapidly right now.
Thank you, Director O'Reilly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Just curious around long-term taxation and being a utility falls in class 2 for BC assessment. And obviously in class 2, it's not the land so much that it's on, but it's the actual asset value itself. And as that it gets appraised through its lifespan. So wondering what the projected tax revenue per turbine that we would be expecting or should be expecting. Thank you.
Nope. I am so sorry. I am the finance detailed financial review. As the environment person, that is outside of my wheelhouse, but I would love to take that question back and get back to you.
And sorry, what was the approximate value then of one wind turbine? Yeah.
Actually undertaking right now is a full financial overview of the model, the procurement aspects, the tax aspect, and we're expected to have our report back before Christmas. So maybe it'll be a chance for us to come back and speak on some of the more specifics surrounding taxation finances.
I can suggest that taxation conversation will be welcomed here. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, thank you very much for the presentation.
So much for your time.
Great, we move on to the next item on the agenda, item 7, which is question period. Are there any questions from anyone in the gallery? And are there any questions from anyone online? No. All right, then we move along to item 8.1, Utility Rates Amendment Bylaw number 2905, 2025. There has been a change to this item. It has changed from being a weighted stakeholder vote for service participants to an unweighted corporate vote for everyone. And Corporate Officer Jeremiah has kindly volunteered to explain why this is so.
Thank you, Chair. As there is only one service participant in requiring the amendments to this bylaw, it automatically diverts back to a corporate unweighted vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have 3 recommendations. Director Sal moves recommendation 1. Anyone second? Director Thorpe, thank you. Any discussion on this item? All right, on the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Recommendation 2. Director Smith, seconded by Director Sal. Discussion? On the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And recommendation 3. Director Hall, seconded by Director Morris. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Development applications, 9.1, we have temporary use permit, bylaw number 2883, 2025, TUP 80. We do have a recommendation here. Moved by Director Morris, seconded by Director Thorpe. Thank you. Discussion? Any questions or comments on this? All right, on the question, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Development variance permit number DVP 129. Moved by Director Morris, seconded by Director Grenier. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about this? No. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And item 9.3 is for information only, referral response number REF 775 regarding Marble Range Park, Interjects Renewable Energy, Inc. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right, we move into a verbal report from CAO Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair Roden, and happy holidays to the board. I've got a number of items to update you on. So first, with the advocacy tour that was in Victoria here recently, the TNRD had a very positive and successful advocacy tour in Victoria and left another positive imprint on the provincial government. All meetings with ministers also included a wide variety of staff of support of these requests. I'm sorry, try that again. Staff in support of these requests. Chair Roden, Mr. Kelly, and I covered the TNRD related topics, and Chair O'Reilly and Vice Chair Blackwell attended the hospital district discussions. All ministers appreciated the briefing notes and discussion and were very engaged in the conversations. I will provide a short overview, but would welcome Chair Roden to jump in as well. Mr. Kelly is away sick today, and we will certainly fill in for him. So from a small water system standpoint, this a multi-ministry staff working group has been established on this issue. Recognition from all ministries involved the fact that there needs to be a fund to help support these. There was also recognition of the TNRD's work to date, along with the strong analysis we provided, and we will reconnect with senior staff early in 2026, as we are also going to take this advocacy to the federal government in collaboration with the province. Secondly, from an inclusion of EA directors was another topic we had. The Premier actually apologized for the ministers missing the mark in this area, which was great to hear. The Premier suggested looking at developing a checklist internally at the province for when ministers visit our region or all regions, and this was a good solution. We did follow up with an email and provided a creative map of the TNRD that clearly highlights our 10 electoral areas as an example. We also discussed the pipeline reevaluation, and he was very receptive to our concerns regarding the large decrease in taxation and the impact this will create. He will investigate this issue and reconnect with the TNRD as soon as possible. Our concerns were heard, and we are looking forward to a response. The third topic was tiny house warriors. A very clear message was delivered that there was no provincial will to remove them. A great discussion ensued, and this was really understood by the Premier and the impact that it's having, and they plan on looking into these concerns and getting back to us as soon as possible. All follow-up from this point forward will be with the Premier's office. And highway safety, and the final topic from an advocacy standpoint, in addition to the Minister, Road Safety BC also participated in this discussion, which was very helpful. We learned that some tickets received in BC are transferred from ICBC to Alberta for payment, but primarily for private drivers and not commercial drivers. Another positive point was the possibility of looking into using mechanisms through CRA to target commercial drivers who break laws in BC, and we're looking forward to further updates. Chair Roden, I know you had something just wanted to add on the advocacy tour.
Thank you very much. The small water systems, that's going to be a discussion that we have for a long time. One of the things that came up that hasn't really been something that has been talked about much in this discussion was the fact that there are so many of these small water systems, and of course many, many more that are not under regional district control. But of the ones that are under regional district control throughout the province, we stress that the TNRD has been very proactive in asset management and knowing the states of our water systems. The same cannot necessarily be said of water systems in other areas. And so that was a topic of discussion, was how do we avoid having a water system go basically south and needing an injection of millions of dollars when other water systems where, you know, we have done the asset management, we have done the reports, we do know exactly what's needed, those then get bumped further down the queue. So there was some talk about that and about how that can be done to maybe try to prioritize some of the water systems that get funding, you know, by almost rewarding, if you will, the regional districts that are doing the hard work, the slog of going through and figuring out what state your water systems are in. So that was interesting because that's not something that has come up before. And we were able to show that, yes, we are doing that. And we're doing that very well here in the TNRD. Overall, I think the advocacy tour is starting to pay off. It's not something that, I mean, no one was expecting to come back with a check for $20 million in our back pockets, sadly. But shame, but I think it really does help the TNRD to stand out from the crowd. The UBCM meetings are wonderful, don't get me wrong, but you are one of a group of anywhere from 50 to 120 local governments that are knocking on that minister's door over a 5-day period. By going to Victoria, away from UBCM, by seeing them in their environment, they're more relaxed, they're more receptive, you stand out more. And it shows the seriousness that we're taking these matters with. We aren't just arranging a meeting because we're all at UBCM, so why not? We are taking the time and trouble to prepare the briefing notes. Thank you to Mr. Kelly for his awesome notes. And taking the time and trouble to go down to Victoria to talk about them, which I think shows them how serious we are about these topics. These are not just things that, oh, well, let's bring this up because we're here. So hopefully our messages did get through. Certainly, of course, everyone says the right things at these meetings. But I think that we do help the TNRD to stand out from the crowd. So I think that they are a valuable exercise. And I think that in time, they will start paying dividends that we will be able to see clearly. Right now, this is only our second one. So I think that this is something that we need to continue into the future and decide what the priorities are, because I think focusing on 2 or 3 things is better than a scattershot approach.
Thank you, Chair Roden. Just a few other quick updates. Long service recognition. This annual presentation will take place at the lunch following our Board of Committee of the Whole on Friday. We are celebrating 13 dedicated and hardworking employees with key service anniversaries. This group of staff collectively represent approximately 175 years of service with the TNRD, including a 40-year service recipient. This is an annual event in December to acknowledge our staff and highlight the significant accomplishments. Winter closure, the TNRD administrative offices and satellite offices will be closed at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, December 24th, and will remain closed until January 2nd. The TNRL, so all the library branches, will be open to the public on December 24th and 31st from 10 to 1 p.m. And then the library branches and administration will maintain regular business hours between December 27th through December 30th as well. The Avonby water main break, I wanted to give a big shout out to the incredible TNRD utility staff and contractors who swiftly responded to a significant water break in the community of Avonby on December 1st. This incident left many homeowners without water, and others who were risking running out very soon after. The dedicated TNRD staff even canceled their vacations and mobilized local contractors to isolate the leak and carry out the repairs. Special mention goes out to Phil Weber, who serves as both the TNRD fire chief in Avonby and our water system operator. Phil actually attended a house fire in the middle of the night, and a few hours later then went back to support the water main repair. So thank you to his efforts. And then lastly, just a First Nations update. Corbin that wanted to pass along, he is working with Kamloops over the coming months to establish a political working group. That was an action item that came out of our recent C2C meeting. And the purpose of this is to implement our MOU more fully and allow for further discussions on key areas of interest. So those are my updates. I did want to mention too the news that MLA Stamer mentioned as well, and it's not news probably, but the atmospheric river is continuing to be a concern. I know our EOC team have been on calls, and we, I think, are lucky from a TNRD perspective, but we're doing everything we can to support and help our neighbors in the Fraser Valley, because it could be significant, and it already has shown to be very damaging. And then the last thing, and I know Mr. Kelly will follow up directly with the board members, but we do have Minister Anderson that's going to be coming through the TNRD on a tour in January. We are just coordinating those details. And one of those engagements actually may be here in the boardroom with Minister Anderson that we can use electronically or in person to involve the directors if they have questions for the minister. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Director Grenier?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Hildebrand. 2 issues. The first is the train derailment that took place on Kamloops Lake. There has been an update from the CPKC or from the Unified Command, which includes the CPKC, and it says that they're putting some of the initiatives off until the spring, where I guess the weather is more conducive and what have you. But the people over in Frederick, on the other side of the lake, who were impacted and had an IHA don't drink the water advisory because of the shallowness of their water intakes on Kamloops Lake. They've been in contact with us, with me, and I've shared that with you, these people are sort of in a hold mode until the spring. They haven't been told that they can use their water systems. In fact, they've been told if you use your water systems and any hydrocarbons go in, that will ruin your system. So they're in a bit of a hold situation, and I don't know that they are, you know, a lot of them are seasonal residents, but I don't know that they can all wait till the spring. So I'm wondering if we, through our EOC, can advocate particularly on their behalf to get some kind of resolution as to whether it's safe over there or not safe, and then maybe move that schedule up as it relates to their private water systems. I'm in your hands for the EOC because I don't participate at those meetings. You tell me. So that's the first one, and I have another unrelated issue.
Through Chair Roden to Director Grenier, I believe that engagement's already started. We did get your email, and we will be following up, and we'll follow up immediately with the partners that are kind of playing the main key role in this, and we'll follow up with both the residents of Frederick through social media and directly if we can through you.
Sure, they'll be happy to hear that. The second point, we do have in our flyer this communication on cellular, and we've been advocating for cellular in the TNRD for some time. Megan Chadwick has reached out to me again. I've copied you, and it's part of their data collection about where cellular is available in our area and where it's not, where communication systems in our area are. For instance, our emergency response people that are on a different network or a different communication schedule. And I don't want to lose that opportunity for them to be aware of all of the gray or no zone capabilities and all of the areas that we might be able to build upon. So I know that you were deep in advocacy, and this is one of the advocacy things that we were pushing. So I just want to elevate that aspect as well. So.
Thank you. I can make, through Chair Roden, I can also mention that Mr. Kelly is engaged in that one as well. Unfortunately, he's away today, and I was expecting him to have an answer, but we'll follow up with you, but it's certainly a priority for us.
Thank you. Did anyone else have any questions for City Alderman? Director Onslow?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank this board and TNRD staff for the work that we are putting into raising the awareness about the Tiny House Warrior encampment in Blue River. It does seem that there is no political will except for the will of this board. So I appreciate it very much. And I hope that we actually get a resolution to this issue in the following year. It would just be amazing. So thank you, everyone, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? All right, so next up, we have the 2026-2030 Provisional 5-Year Financial Plan Report. I think we'll just take a short break for everyone to get a cup of coffee and stretch their legs. I'm seeing some people nodding their heads. That's probably a good idea. See you back here in 5 minutes. All right, everyone, welcome back. And we are returning to the 5-year financial plan. I'm going to turn directly over to Chief Financial Officer Fox to walk us through the provisional 5-year financial plan.
Thank you, Chair Roden, and good afternoon, Board. I have brought you a fine piece of work this afternoon. So as you see from the picture, the sun might be going down on the year end, but it's not quite down on the budget yet. So the provisional budget is really our pre-budget discussion. We came to you in November with the draft budget, had some information provided by the department heads to each of, or from each of them to the board. And we heard from the board some of the things that they would like to see implemented and changed prior to provisional. And some of those things are still in the works until final. I am just going to pop here for a moment. The request for a provisional budget is legislative. The staff require flexibility to move forward with committing the board, without committing, the board to final cost prematurely. A provisional budget provides enough funding certainty to keep planning and essentially preparatory work on track, while still allowing the board to review and approve detailed figures once the full costs and timing are confirmed. This approach avoids delays, keeps priority work moving, and ensures that financial decisions are made with complete and accurate information. So I do get asked now and again why we do the provisional, and that is what we do. There are different approaches to provisional across the region and from my different counterparts. This is what we do here. We have actually been asked a couple of times to present and give presentations on our budget presentation format. It seems to be a bit of a standard or best practice that we're setting coming to the board early, giving the board an opportunity to see the numbers and influence those numbers ahead of time. Recently, I went in November to Vancouver to the GFOA BC and did a presentation, a training presentation there, which Austin came with me to do, and it was very well received. We've also since then been asked to present at the MFA, I've been asked to partner with MFA to do Municipal Finance Authority to do a presentation, and also bring the budget best practices presentation possibly to the GFOA BC in the spring. So I think that's great. It's kind of getting out there what we do, and it does show and prove that it is making a difference and people are seeing that. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Since the draft budget, we have not got new assessment values. So the budget, the tax impacts are based on the 2025 revised roll assessment numbers. We did have some surplus changes, which allowed us a little bit more surplus to come forward. That has reduced the tax rate somewhat. We have a reserve strategy that we're going to have to bring back to you in the next coming months, so January, February. The board did ask us to look into solid waste savings. I know Jamie and the team are working on that right now. That will come back to you also in February. The mobile library report is being worked on by Julie and the library team, and that will also come back to you guys. Development services fees with Alex, that team is also working on a plan and looking at the fee structure there. So there's a lot of things still in the works. This isn't something that we've done the same in the past. We have a lot more things turning around here to help with the tax rate increases, to give you guys more options, or to give the board, more options prior to that final budget adoption. The other piece that I would be bringing forward is based on the new assessment values. I'd like to make sure that the board is aware of those tax impacts on their regions. There are a couple items, cleanup house items. I know that Director Thorpe has asked that within what's called recreation, the board has grant and aid funds available that they, and I should call it a discretionary, I shouldn't call it discretionary, electoral grant needs that they have at their discretion. Within that is a piece of economic development. In some cases where economic development wasn't directly funded, that got combined into recreation. For Director Thorpe's area, we're just going to split out those two amounts so that her portion that she's still contributing to economic development is shown as economic development. So people can see that there instead of having it combined with recreation. That's the only area there that needs to be fixed in that way. So we'll have that done for final budget. One of the other areas that we need to, and I believe what we're going to do is incorporate into the provisional plan as an amendment, will be the Mammoth TV service for Area M and Area J. That was not removed as requested from the provisional. It's a $6,300 amount, so it's not overly material to the overall region, but to their areas, it's important. So what we're going to do is, Austin's noted that we have an amended provisional that if anything comes up at the end of today, he will incorporate that, and the motion that will be made will incorporate any of the changes that you bring forward. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. The format that we presented the budget is fairly the same. The overhead we will go through will look a little bit different, maybe somewhat similar to the hospital district this morning. There is a lot of information, and to give it its due diligence for the public, for the media, and for the board, I do need to go through a number of things, but I'll be moving through it fairly quickly. I really want to highlight the tax implications at the end because that's one of the areas we haven't really looked at. The other issue I want to note is typically we give the board a look at where surpluses ended up. It is not the end of the year. So if I brought that now with projections, I'd have to bring it again in the spring. I'd rather bring that to you in February and give the board a chance to see where the surpluses ended up at that time. We're going through the year-end process now. We go through the audit early February. And then I should be able to bring something back in between that time so you guys can see those numbers. I really wanted to give you guys an idea of the things that we've been working on to bring you the best numbers that we can. This also has been a budget where I feel like we have had the most engagement on. We've had a lot of discussions, and I really have to thank Jamie. Him and I bring discussions to individual electoral area directors and mayors and other directors when requested. And we did that the most we had done before. We've had a lot of questions in between, and I really also appreciate after documents are sent out to the board in agenda packages and as they're reviewing, they're bringing items and questions to us ahead of time. And that just allows us to actually get our ducks in a row so we can bring you guys, the board, the information that you would like to see. The 2026-2030 plan balances the core services with critical long-term investments. We have $66.3 million of total provisional budget for 2026. Total 5-year capital investment of $58.9 million. Follow along here. And the tax increase net total right now is sitting at 6.67. And when we came in with the draft, it was at 9.7. So it has been reduced by 3%. But remember, that is the global taxation increase. What that means is the taxes that the TNRD collects is going up by 6.67% globally. That cannot be equated to each service. And we'll get into that and show you the differences by area. A quick overview of because I believe that the board is fairly familiar with the process that I follow, the documents and attachments are very similar that you see every year. I'm not going into detail into that information, but I'm just touching on some of the information that I think is important when you make your motion to approve the amended budget. This is what the number that you'll see. And really the grand total of all the departments' revenues and expenditures come to zero at the end. That's our zero base budgeting. This is where you see the total revenues, just in a simpler form. The total revenues minus total expenditures. I would also say here is where I would get a question at times as well, because when we talk about the tax rate increase, the taxes have gone up more than the expenses have gone up. And I will highlight that further down in the slides. The taxes themselves are a result of all of the operating costs minus all of the other revenue that we collect. And that the taxes had to go up because the surpluses have gone down, reserve transfers have gone down. And that's why you see a slight increase for expenses, but a larger increase required for taxation. The total proposed taxation requisition will rise by that 6.7%. It is just under $2 million. We do break our budgets down by department, and this is one that we were reflecting last year during the draft in November. And it was important at that time to jump into the numbers because overall, I know we got into a discussion about the film commission where the percentage itself seemed larger. Let's see if I know how to do this. Oh boy. Oh, wow. That's something. Okay. The 13%. However, if we jump here, that's $34,000 to an overall amount. So the overall amount for film commission, the percentage seems large, a dollar amount is not as large as the percentage would make it look. That just shows the department increases to make up that overall 6.7. And now it's not working.
We might need to imagine it's like this.
Can't work, man.
All right, this just gives you a view of the revenue breakdown in a nice, beautiful pie chart, just showing that a majority of the revenues are coming in from taxation. The MFA debt is a little bit misleading because that is flow-through revenue. We have an offsetting expense for the exact same amount, and that is because the regional district is a flow-through for the municipal debt within the area, within the region. Grants also make up a large part of the revenue, as does reserve transfers. This is a graph that I did put up during the draft presentation. It really just shows the fact that the revenues have declined. The surplus revenue has really declined almost, and really right now less than half, but I anticipate by the end of the year, our projections, the surplus is going to come in a little bit better than our projections. That's usually what happens, which should be a benefit to the overall tax increase. The reserve income as well. This has really the reverse effect. So what we have been doing is relying on large amounts of reserve coming in to offset some of the operating costs. This is an area of caution. This is one that I have talked to the board about because as soon as the reserve contribution is not available, the tax rate increase goes back up. What we've tried to do in areas where development services does not have a lot of capital and it made sense to use reserve dollars is really step down the reserves that we're using each year so that by the end of the time that we're using it, it's minimal impact. Same with solid waste. Solid waste obviously has more capital in there, a little bit more worrisome to tap into reserve dollars there. But we do have reserves coming in over the 5-year plan to keep the overall tax rate at a reasonable incline. The general government services, solid waste, library, some of the higher costs within the organization. Please remember that general government services covers all the board costs, all the GIS costs, all the IT costs, business support, the human resources, communications, finance. That is the general administration plus all the board costs that it takes to run the region. The top 5 revenue sources are highlighted there, and we've highlighted those on a previous screen. The total 2026 budget is the $66.3 million. Apparently, it's been too long of a day for me. Driven by general operating expenditures. The utility services operating expenditures are kept separate, as they are a separate fund, and legislatively you have to keep them both separate. The overall change in expenditure from 2025 versus 2026, just a little bit of a different way to look at it by department. The utility services operating budget will increase by 3%. 8% to $2.4 million, primarily funded by the user fees. Just a different way to look at it, and it really shows the blocks that are building up to the total. We talk a lot about taxation. We don't often sit and review or talk a lot about the utilities fees because there's a lot of work that has gone into this. Again, it is a strategy that was reviewed by the utility committee and brought to the board and endorsed to make sure that there was money going into the reserve funds for that future capital. And I know that there's a lot of lobbying to the provincial government where utilities are concerned because there is challenges with their affordability. We have parcel taxes. In most cases, parcel taxes are the charges that are charged to recapture the capital borrowing that we do, typically in utilities, but we do have a couple areas in fire services where we have utilized parcel taxes. I'm going to quickly shift to the capital plan. What I want to remind the board is that today I'm going to ask you to approve the capital plan. When we come back in March, we will likely ask you to amend the capital plan and approve it as part of the 5-year strategy. I do ask you to consider the approval of the capital plan and not a provisional approval, because it does help us to better utilize entering into different contracts early on, making sure that we can meet quotations appropriately, because sometimes we come back 6 months later and quotations have changed. So it does help us act a little bit more efficiently, and that's what I'll be bringing you back today. We have $12.9 million from 2025 carry forward projects. We don't typically include those in the request per se, because those are projects that you've already approved, and to stop those projects would mean that things that are already underway would have to be reviewed, which becomes difficult. But as you know, the board can question and ask about any of the capital projects, and we would have to bring them back up at any time. There are $46 million of new projects. 21.9 million is the combined total for 2026. So there's about $9 million of new projects being brought forward. The capital attachment has a list of almost any way you could look at the capital item. We have a list of capital projects by department. We have a list of capital projects by area. We have the funding source that you're funding, because it is a 5-year funded capital plan. There are at times projects on that list that are funded by grants and cannot move forward unless the grant is achieved. Typically where community works funds are concerned, we have those funds and they're pretty set. Sometimes there are grants like the Strategic Priorities Fund where we have the capital item in there and we then identify it as a grant. It's really important for us to do that because when we apply for grants, the funding body that allocates those funds wants to see that the board has endorsed a project, but there are no reserves to fund it. So it will only go forward. It gives weight behind the application of a grant project. So it's important to include those on the capital plan. The utility services represents over 61% of the 5-year capital plan. So there's $36.1 million of our capital of that entire plan that is utility services. And there's the water treatment plant in Savinaw. There's a distribution water mains in Savinaw, water treatment plant in Pritchard, distribution system upgrades, Blue River, wastewater treatment plant in Pritchard, reservoir in Wallachine. Fire Protection Services has $9.2 million total investments planned. The TNRD Public Library System, $6.5 million, and General Government Services is $2.5 million. A large part of that is that ERP system. The 5-year capital is primarily funded through grants, reserves, and targeted borrowing. Of course, reserves typically are getting into the reserve accounts because we've made transfers from the operating budget through taxes. So reserves are getting balances within them because of the taxation. TNRD's total reserves are projected to grow by 48% to 43 million by 2030. I did send out, or I should say Legislative Services sent out the reserve schedule that was cut off from the capital summary attachment. Typically the reserves are in there and they were cut off. So we did send that out to you so you could have that detail at your fingertips. I would also say that reserves, we give you every reserve that we have. We give you the ins and outs of that reserve over the 5 years. It's a lot of information. Some people like it. Some probably do not. We also include in that plan a list of the capital projects over $250,000 if you want to look at some of the more material projects that are hitting the books. I am going to get into the tax implications. I want to remind you that I will go through this. I will stop at the end and we'll talk about any of the questions that you have. Hopefully that's okay. If there's something that's really pressing and you want to bring it up now, you certainly can. But I will reopen this once I get through the tax implications and answer any question that you might have.
Any questions at this point? No? All right, go ahead.
All right, I think we've highlighted the 6.67 or 6.7, and I didn't purposely pick that, and I know that's a popular number these days in the media. 2026 net tax requisition breakdown, and it really breaks down in that tax impact summary the taxes by area, taxes by department, taxes by municipality. You can see that about 48% of the taxation that we receive is made up by municipal requisitions. The other portion is directly electoral area requisitions, and a small part of that is 2.9 million of specified area services. And those specified areas, when you can allocate something to an entire region, we call it an electoral area requisition or a local area service. When it is very specific, where you can have a fire service over 2 regions or 2 areas, or not directly within those regional boundaries, we call it a specified area. This is a bit of a bar graph to show the change, the percent change in net requisitions by municipality and by area. Some of the key service costs driving the requisition changes were the solid waste management, E911, and TNRD library system. The impact on an average homeowner's tax bill varies significantly by community. So it's important to remember the electoral areas for the regional district will typically see a higher tax bill, but that is because the services that the municipalities are paying for through the TNRD are only some of the services municipalities have, and they have their own tax bill. So their constituents are going to get a tax bill from their area, their municipality, and on top of that, they're getting a TNRD bill. Our electoral area taxation is specific to electoral areas. However, you'll still see the hospital district tax and you'll see the school tax. So you can see that it varies very different over the area. Also, another important piece to note is any of the regional costs are split up for all the services that are considered regional. They're split up through Kamloops, all the municipalities and all the electoral areas. Kamloops makes up 63% of those regional costs because of the large amount of assessment value that Kamloops has. All right, so I know we had a great turkey dinner and I don't want to lose everybody. So I wanted to get through this part fairly quickly so that we could then get into discussion, wake you guys back up, maybe get you guys to stand up, do some jumping jacks. All right, the merit, I usually use, because Kamloops comes first in my requisition, my menu of services, I put them up. Today I picked merit. Typically I pick area A, and today I picked one of the other areas. All right, so the city of Merritt has a menu of services that is different from the electoral areas, and it's unique to the city of Merritt. We offer to meet to go through any of these with any of the directors. What you'll see is the cost per $100,000 per average resident. And you see the tax requisition that we're predicting right now. Remember, the requisition will be impacted, number one, by the regional costs because of the assessment values. As soon as the assessment allocations change, they're all added up, and whatever piece of the pie you take up of assessment is what you pay for the regional costs. So that will be impacted. We don't see that yet. So that will change some of these numbers. Remember as well that the solid waste service makes up, if you look at this one in particular, $151,000 increase, 10% increase for merit, but $132,000 of that increase is for solid waste. So you know that the other ones are fairly immaterial, jumping up and down. And why the board has asked and the staff is working on some options that I think the board will be pleased that there'll be some options in front of them. The assessment class breakdown is something that we provided before. Again, this is a topic that some people don't even care to look at. I just want to give you a little indication where the city of Merritt has residential taxation. What this shows you is that 59% of the requisition will be paid by their residents. I did provide this information before, but if it is something that interests you, you can reach out and I can provide it to you again. It's not in the attachments. This is a great infographic that we provide to the directors to go out to the constituents. We update it each time we come to you so that you have that to talk to people with. And it really just shows the proposed tax rates by the menu of services that you have and per $100,000 of assessment. Area B is, you can tell the difference. Merit, much shorter. Area B, large menu of services. They have regional services, local area services, specified services that they pay for. The overall requisition, $1.6 million. So 5% increase in the overall requisition. It was 1.5 million the prior year. A majority of that increase, again, is from that solid waste service. And this is what we meet with each electoral director to go through to make sure that they have a say on the services that directly impact them. Because when we're talking about this is only going to impact one or two different directors. So going into detail at a table like this would be very time consuming. Again, the Area B assessment class breakdown has residential taxation. The 5.7% is the amount of the requisition that the residents pay for. A large part of that, almost 90% comes from the utility class. Again, we have the infographic, which looks a little bit different for the electoral area. The electoral area infographic is broken down by those menu of services. And also at the bottom, it has the information about the specified area services. If your CFOs are interested when you guys are having initial budget talks, I do have the requisition estimate right now at my fingertips, but it is based on last year's assessments. The overall taxation change, the amount owing an average increase per average home. We also break that down by every area. You can also see that the net requisitions break down by the municipal class or municipal electoral area and specified area. That's where when I'm talking about 48% of our requisition is coming from municipal, the remaining portion from electoral areas, this is where I'm getting that breakdown from.
Sorry, can I just ask you to go back to that last slide? While I think about it and while it's there. Just, you did talk earlier, and I just can't reinforce this enough. The percentage change is almost meaningless because it shows for the municipal a percentage change of 5.08%. The only reason it's 5% is because the city of Kamloops change is so small. All the other municipalities, the increase is about 11%. So saying that municipalities in the TNRD are only going to see a 5.08% increase is incorrect. We need to talk about the numbers. And I know I say this as a member of the media. Media like those percentages because they can be really dramatic and headline grabbing. But we need, when we're talking, we need to reinforce the numbers.
Yeah, we get a lot of conversation with staff because they work on departments, they work on specific services. We talk to you about certain areas, but when we come to you and try and find a common denominator, we often refer to that global tax rate increase, which can look misleading when you look at your individual area and why we're putting in the time to do the extra work. Because when we came back to the board for draft, we made it very clear from staff's perspective, the amount of work that we've done to get to where we are, the amount of surplus decline, the amount of reserves that we no longer have to subsidize operations. We really need to look at our service levels and if there's service level changes that we can make. We're running pretty lean at this point, and I think you're going to see that when the audit results come in. Back. So overall, the staff have really focused on taking a balanced approach, working with the board early, getting feedback and input, really looking at our infrastructure, our utility services, our library services, seeing if there were wins that we could find there. This is a fiscally sound budget. There is still work to do. It's provisional. We want to be very transparent about the financial implications and the tax implications. We have met with each that wanted to go through the tax implications independently to make sure they understood them. We do provide a lot of documentation and it is updated on our website for you to work with. I encourage you to reach out if you need help. Austin and I are always available to help make sense of some of the documents that I know to some people aren't that intuitive. At this point in time, Austin's going to be my left hand, and he's really going to be listening to some of the final decisions that the board wants to put forward. We have included the removal of Mammoth Lake TV service from the numbers, so that when you do make a motion, what we'll do is change the number that you're approving as a total expenditure for operational and give you that updated number to make your motion when you're ready. The capital motion itself just stands as it is. If there's questions about the capital that's been put forward, please raise those as well. So we're open right now for the questions that you might have.
All right, thank you very much. Questions? Director Grenier, Director Sal, put your hand up as you think about it, and I will add you to the list. Director Grenier, start us off, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Fox, for this presentation. You continue to state that our surpluses are going down. That's a good thing because it means we're becoming more accurate with our budgeting and our tax requisitions. So it is a fact that they're going down, which means that we don't have as much surplus because we're being more accurate. So I would want people to understand that that's a good thing. Our reserves appear to be going up, and that's because we are properly allocating excessive surplus to reserves, or our surplus and reserve policy is working for us. So that's a good thing. You have pointed out in this presentation that the solid waste management for all but the city of Kamloops is a major driving factor in our increase. And I'd just like to make sure I understand, we have not yet seen the reduction that we gave direction earlier in the year. Could you go get some savings in that solid waste management? So if what we're seeing now is reflected before that, we could have a hope that we could reduce the solid waste management, achieving some of the reduction that Chair Roden talked about for both municipalities and for electoral areas. The second two big items are library and general government services. We're going to be dealing with, after this issue, we're going to be dealing with the ERP, which is part of general government services, and it's a big driver of costs. Library, we have historically done it as an overall library budget. And I would like to see in the future a breakdown, almost like an auditor general would ask a question for a more detailed breakdown of what the costs of library are on a per location basis. Where are we spending our monies on a per location basis, which would help us drive decisions in the future about library expansion, library repair, mobile library. I think that that's something that we could look at in the future to help us make good decisions about that. But just to come back, I saw you nodding your head when you were talking about the solid waste management. There may be some savings to come after that review, and that would happen in January, February. Is that accurate?
I can speak to the solid waste one through the chair. So yeah, staff have already started working on that analysis. The direction of this board was to review operational changes. So a service review, what services could be changed or cut to reduce operating costs, and what we could do with fees, potential fee increases that would result in more revenue. So we'll be in the February committee, the whole meeting of this board will bring back a number of options, each which will have a price tag attached to them of if the board adopts this or this option, then this would be the financial savings. So there'll be, I don't want to commit to the number, but there'll be multiple options, and this board can choose 1, 2, 3, or 5 of those options, and that will come with a price tag attached to them that will then be directly updated into the final budget in March.
Thank you. Director Sal.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Fox, for the presentation. I'm just wondering how, excuse me, how was the public feedback survey on the draft budgets going? And will the board, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe this is for Carlton maybe, and will the board see the results of those surveys so far? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, through to the board. As far as the feedback, there's online ways that people can reach out. With Mr. Davies being gone right now, I will follow up with him to see what type of feedback there has been that way. We have had a lot more, or have been seeing a lot more engagement from directors directly with their constituents and coming to us to ask for materials and answers to questions that might be coming up. So I do see a lot more of that happening, and I will bring you back information once Mr. Davies returns.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. All right, thank you. All right, we do have two recommendations. Okay, Director Smith moved recommendation 1, seconded by Director Stankey, that the board approve the 2026 capital expenditures totaling $21,887,347,000. That is correct as it stands, CFO Fox?
The capital number is correct as it stands.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the capital number? All those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. All right, second, provisional 2026-2030 year financial plan and.
Chair?
Yes.
Just want to be able to give you the new updated number. Right now, the direction we have is to remove the Mammoth Lake TV expenditure from that total. Marnie, did Austin give you the new total? You want me to read it out? We can read it out. You want to go for it, Austin?
The new expense total is 66,272,044, down from 66,278,322.
All right, thank you. So I will move that the board approve the provisional 2026-2030 year financial plan totaling $66,272,044 of operational expenditures. Second by Director Thorpe. Thank you. Discussion. CFO Fox? Director Laird, then CFO Fox?
Just had a question about the capital expenditures I talked about. Is that included in that number? I don't have to make any motions or to have that included now, or are we looking at doing it later?
Director Laird, do you have the project numbers that he talked with us about?
Just to clarify, you're referring to the CCBF stuff?
What was that again? Didn't hear that.
You're referring to the Canada Community Building Fund amounts?
Yes.
So for the Canada Community Building Fund amounts, the roof project is already accounted for in the budget. We will just change the label on that to be coming out of your fund. The other two projects, we're still nailing down the exact amount that we are allocating from the CCBF, but that will be in there before final. We usually do that closer to the end of the year once we know the final carry forwards for the current year capital projects, but rest assured they will all be in there before final.
Great, thank you.
Correct. No motion needed.
Thank you, CFO Fox.
Thank you. We do have a 5-year trajectory. I encourage the board to look at. I've broken up the different presentations so I don't bring you so much all at once. What I did with the draft presentation was really focus on the overall 5-year, focusing on 26. This presentation is really focused on 2026 because we're looking for that provisional approval to continue on to 2026. I do know that there's a whole 5-year plan out there and we don't really talk much to the 5-year impacts. I do encourage, if you have questions as you're reading through, to reach out to us. I'm more than happy to talk to anything you might see over those 5 years. And that way, when we come in before you again, prior to that final, we'll be able to address anything that might stem from there. And we do have lots of opportunities coming up with these further presentations like solid waste and development services that you'll have an opportunity to bring questions forward.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Nothing else on the motion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, CFO Fox. Thank you, Mr. Potts. Thank you to your team for putting that together and all right, on to 10.1.3, Enterprise Resource Planning, ERP. We do have a recommendation. Director Houghton, seconded by Director Sarai. Thank you. Any discussion on this? Questions? Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. I read this report and I was able to understand most of it, but there was parts that I was uncertain about. So I just have a few questions to ask about this. This amount that we're about to approve is not the full ERP program. Is it a consultation to help us implement it? Because I see that there are fees associated with it beyond I think it's $360,000. There's annual fees and there is staff time. So I'm just wondering if you could give us a quick rundown. Originally, it was a $3 million item. It's a $2 million item, and we're dealing with 360 now, and we're dealing with it on finance, and we're dealing with it on HR. And the 360 is to, I think, help us get towards all of that. Have I got that right?
Thank you, Chair, through to the board. The number that is in front of you today is specific to the HRIS, the HR component of the system, and we separated the two of them out. We have had an approved $3 million. We brought you the financial portion of this previously. We've tried to outline, if you were to look at the schedule that's included in the report, it really lays out the cost over 3 years. What we've taken advantage of is making sure that we can implement those ongoing licenses and operating costs, as well as the implementation and the resources needed to implement the programs. So you'll see that really laid out over those times. The cost of the 3 years that's before you really is focused in on that tender for the HRIS system. And that is the cost of that tender over the 3 years. That includes all those costs that would be included within that 3 years.
So supplemental. So that chart that is at the beginning of the presentation, I don't know if we can bring it up on the screen or not, but it talks about another $150,000 unplanned, 2 times $150,000 in year 1. And I'm still confused because there's a financial, there's the program for finance, and then there's the program for HR. Did you say that this 350 is just for HR? That there is a separate amount of money for financial, and then there's a separate amount of money for buying the program to begin with?
Thank you, Chair, through to the board. Absolutely. So when we brought the $3 million project forward, we were targeting an entire ERP system. This isn't necessarily what probably would equate to what we would call an ERP system, because we've broken it into a finance system and an HRIS system. The first presentation we brought on financial tender, but because the $3 million was approved as a whole, we wanted to break down the $3 million so you knew how we were utilizing those funds. This report is specific to the HR system. The costs are broken down very transparently. You can see what we're paying for the implementation of the system. We're including what it would cost for the resources, the internal resources and people we have to hire to implement the system. And it also includes the 3-year cost for the license. After those 3 years, the license costs then become operational costs that impact the budget. The unplanned cost was because when we are implementing these systems, we are hopeful that in our scope of work, we have covered off every item and system impact that we can. But there are things that may have to be considered. So we've kept a contingency in each of those areas that will only be spent if there becomes an unidentified item or system that needs to be integrated or replaced because it can't fit within what we currently have. We have the most detailed scope of work I've ever seen in my life. We have actually been commended by the proponent, saying that they want to seek out our project team to work for them because it was so well done. We have other areas reaching out to us as well to see that scope of work. I think that we have covered everything we possibly can. But to give you an example, we have a Tempest system that we use in development services that has to be incorporated into our system. We don't know if that's going to be of ease, and we don't know if there's a component of property taxes or utilities that we might have to do in the Tempest system that we have. We just want to make sure that we are not eliminating those funds out of the plan until we're confident that we don't need further dollars. And you can also see in there that with the plan we put forward, $2 million, there's a savings already that we're predicting of over $945,000 from the original request that we made.
So thank you for that explanation. So in approving this $360,000 contract to this company, we are also essentially approving another $300,000 in system unplanned in year one. And we're doing that twice on this chart. I may be misunderstanding it, but what I'm trying to understand is there an opportunity? We've just gone through the budget. We're looking for savings. Is there an opportunity either to sharpen the pencil on those two 150,000s, or is there an opportunity to stagger the implementation of the finance and the HR by 1 year? We're still employing these people to help us with one of the implementations, but all from the perspective of that would be beneficial for our taxpayers if we could stagger it. So those are two questions. I'm not advocating, and I'm just asking, could we save $300,000 from these unplanned items? And would there be a benefit to looking at staggering the implementation of this over 2 years instead of drinking from the fire hose in year one?
Thank you, Chair, through to the directors. When I put this forward, when I worked with Amanda on this, we didn't ask for further approval beyond the 300,000 because the board has already approved us to utilize 3 million. When we came to the board to discuss the separation of the two components, until this time, we didn't know the overall scope of the dollars we were going to use. The money that we are using to implement the ERP is not affecting taxes at all. It is money that is being generated from using funds from the accumulated surplus, and that is a specific amount of money that I had the auditor come here and talk to the board about when I presented it, because it is really our operating float. So if I can reduce that amount, I'm happy. I don't really want to tap into that as much as the $3 million. So any savings from there is great. What I would say, though, is any impact to here and staggering. For one, we have economies of scale. We have, for an example, we have Austin seconded to a finance lead for the ERP, and 80% of his time is being spent leading the implementations. We have a project lead, internal resources. It's going to cost us more money if we stagger these out. We have a team right now dedicated to do this work. They believe that our project lead and our finance lead will be able to do both of these projects together. If I need to subcon on Austin longer, I'm going to have a backfill longer. So the costs are going to go up. So I would rather try and gain the economies of scale that we can right now with these two systems and with the teams that I have.
So finally, it's staggering. It doesn't sound to me to be a viable option, but there is the potential for savings of 300,000 if those unplanned things aren't incurred. And I'm wondering, in your review that goes back to January and February of 2026, if there could be any kind of look-see at these $250,000 to see if that could be tightened up to half of that or something along the way that would help with our planning of our tax increase. Just wondering if there's any reasonableness to that request.
If I can just clarify, you refer to $250,000? Where? Oh, to $150,000
That's right.
amounts. Okay. At this time, I don't have much more to put forward there. It would be hard for me to predict at this time. Any savings right now would just be money we wouldn't tap into out of our accumulated surplus and would not directly affect taxation unless the board wanted to make direction to do something different there.
I've got Director Sow and then Director Getz.
Thank you. I read a bit more about the software vendor, despite the name UKG Canada, they're actually an American company, partially owned by American private equity. I was just wondering, and I'm fairly certain your team has done their best to try, but if we really looked, there was no suitable Canadian vendor that could fulfill our requirements. Thank you.
Through the chair to the board. So we did engage with Canadian proponents to discuss if they would be a suitable option. We had two actually in particular that we had direct discussions with, but they couldn't actually meet the minimum requirements that we had for the system. To also provide you with some assurance, UKG Pro, the team, the sales team and the support team are Canadian based. They have a Canadian based office located in BC. So even though the company is US based, it is a Canadian based home office that we'll be working with, and they do store our data within Canada. So the data doesn't go outside of Canada and isn't related to that data breach that happened.
Thank you, Director Getz.
So maybe to help out Mr. Grenier here, I have a friend that I used to work for IBM for 30 years, and I've just asked him about what unplanned costs were, because my job was to do with the licensing. And he has told me that when you buy a new computer software, unplanned costs usually cover training and onboarding systems, system integration, maintenance, support fees, necessary hardware upgrades, and potential productivity loss. And he points out that common unplanned costs are training and onboarding, the time and resources to need to train employees, integration with existing systems, ensuring the new software works seamlessly with the current tool, data migration, moving data from old legacy systems to the new platform, ongoing maintenance and support beyond the initial purchase, annual fees for maintenance, bug fixes, updates, etc. Hardware and infrastructure upgrades, downtime, customization, consultation and professional services, security and compliance. And he recommends that when you are buying, to avoid any surprises, it's recommended to factor a contingency budget of around 5 to 10% of the total cost in the initial planning and ask vendors for a detailed breakdown of all potential expenses. And he tells me I owe him $10 for all of that. So that's what unplanned costs are.
Thank you very much. We'll pass the hat around. Anyone else have any questions? All right, and we do have a motion on the floor. Who moved and seconded that? Oh, Director Blackwell, seconded by Director Newstater. Thank you. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Item 10.1.4, North Kamloops Library renovation. Director Middleton.
Thank you very much. I need to recuse from this vote as I have an immediate family member that is employed by the by A&T. So thanks.
All right, item regarding the North Kamloops Library renovation, we do have a staff recommendation. Director Houghton, seconded by Director Hall. Thank you. Any discussion on this? No? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Yeah. All right, we move on to 10.1.5, designation of Tourism Wells Gray Association as the recipient for the municipal and regional district tax. Thank you. And Director, okay, well, we'll take them one at a time. So recommendation one, moved by Director Sarai, seconded by Director Sal. Thank you. Any discussion on this? Director Sal?
I just want to make a comment to the board, like why the MRDT was decided not to be used for affordable housing needs. I had discussions with Tourism Wells Gray, Executive Director, that I think we should at every opportunity explain to the public why we didn't do that, because the amount that we're getting, that from 2 to 3%, basically 1% increase, it's only estimated to be about $80,000. It's not going to make any. You're not going to build housing with $80,000. So just for the public's awareness, thank you. It's not that we're not supporting public, affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sal. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Second recommendation. You'd like to move that? Director Blackwell, thank you. Seconded by Director Sarai, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. 10.1.6 TNRD appointment to the Wells Gray Community Forest Society and the Tourism Wells Gray Association Board. We have 2 recommendations.
Move one.
Director Thorpe, seconded by Director Middleton. Recommendation 1. Director Sal?
Question, do I, or maybe do Corporate Officer Jeremiah, do I have to recuse myself from this? Yeah.
Thank you, Director Sal. It would probably be a good idea to do that, as we can't tell you to declare a conflict of interest. It's nice that you have identified this. So thank you.
So I will recuse myself.
Means we can all talk about you while you're. So we do have a recommendation moved and seconded that Director Sal be appointed to the as the Thompson-Nicola Regional District's representative to Tourism Wells Gray Association Board. Discussion? Director Grenier. No, we've already moved recommendation 1. So, but you can say what a great appointment this would be. It certainly is. All right, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And we have a second recommendation. Director Thorpe, seconded by Director Getz. Comments? Director Blackwell.
Yeah, I have concern on this one, because the Wells Gray Community Forest Society is now a granting body. There is and has been, with the District of Clearwater, conflicts of interest that has occurred here. And with the TNRD often going to versions of the Wells Gray Community Forest, whether it be the corporation or the society, for grants, I see that setting us up possibly for another conflict of interest. So it's more of a warning, but I am concerned about that.
So you're concerned for the TNRD, for Director Sal, if he was on the Wells Gray Community Forest Society, or both?
There needs to be very clear statement that if there's anything to do with grants related to TNRD, acquiring those grants, that you recuse yourself from any and all discussions on those grants.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Ten point one point seven, we have here for information, building permit activity. Anyone have any, your last chance for 2025 to comment on building permit activity? Would also be the first time in 2025 anyone had commented on building permit activity. No? All right. Committees, we have a number of committee reports here. We have some recommendations coming out of policy and governance. We have recommendation 1 from Policy and Governance Committee that the board adopt board correspondence policy number 1.1.14 as amended.
Second.
Director Laird, seconded by Director Middleton. Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Recommendation number 2.
Move to.
Director Middleton, seconded by Director Newstater. Discussion regarding mobile computer policy. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And recommendation number 3. Director Houghton, thank you. Seconded by Director Sarai. Any discussion on this? On the question, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. We have the parcel tax roll review panel draft. Anyone have any questions or comments on that? All right, we move on to correspondence. Action requested, Lytton Area Wireless Society, Lyttonet. We have a request for a letter of support from Director Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to ask that the board direct staff to send a letter to the Lytton Area Wireless Society, otherwise known as Lyttonet, expressing support of the proposed highway cellular connectivity projects along Highway 12, 99, and 40. There is a letter in your agenda package, and on page 2, they've kind of outlined what they would ideally like to see in that letter. Lyttonet is an amazing group. After the 2021 Lytton Creek wildfire.
Hang on, can we just get a seconder for that before?
Sorry.
Okay. Director Grenier, second that, sorry. Okay, otherwise I would have forgotten, so no, okay, back to you. Thank you, Director Thorpe.
I apologize. So Lyttonet is an amazing group. After the 2021 Lytton Creek wildfire, there was no communication in the community or in the greater area. Within a couple of days, Lyttonet, which is a locally owned group, it's nonprofit, they had set up communication for the community. They have been fabulous through the floods, through the fires, through everything. And one of the mandates of this board is to promote connectivity. And I do think we need to really do this locally. The fact that they're a nonprofit is to our advantage because a lot of the bigger companies, they're looking for the profit margin. This group isn't, and they are local. So I would ask that you support this letter, please.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments? No, were they not the first business to rebuild after the fire? No. All right, on the question then, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Now, item 12.2, information. We did have a piece of correspondence as part of the agenda package on Bill M216, Professional Reliance Act. We, at the start of this meeting, added a second piece of correspondence regarding this from Silga, and now Director Thorpe would like to do something with that.
Sorry, me again. I would ask that this correspondence from information be moved into correspondence for action, first of all. Do I need a motion on that before I go the next step?
No, it's really just now you're moving it for action, and then you're going to suggest the
Okay.
action you'd like us to take.
And then I would ask that the board direct staff to send a letter to Premier Eby, Minister Boyle, Chair and Deputy Chair of the Select Standing Committee on the Private Members Bill, expressing the TNRD's opposition to Bill M-216, the Professional Reliance Act. I don't think personally that this particular act is good for all the communities. I think they're trying too much of a one-size-fits-all. And as we know, this regional district and both the electoral areas and all the communities that make up this regional district, we're all unique. And a one-size-all approach doesn't work. It also does not give us that local oversight that is so key when we look at things like fires, floods, that sort of thing.
So
I'm
Director
making
Thorpe
that
has made a motion, and who would like to second that? Director Onslow, thank you. I know it's not part of the package, but anyone who'd like to see a response to this from a small local government that has gone over it, our CAO in Ashcroft, Daniela Dick, crafted a very thoughtful and very detailed letter to the province regarding exactly how this is going to impact the village of Ashcroft and what the village of Ashcroft already does and why this one-size-fits-all approach is not good. So this is yet another in a disturbing line of pieces of legislation which have come through with little to no consultation with the local governments that are actually directly impacted with them. So it's a very disturbing trend on the part of the province that these major pieces of legislation are being rolled out without consultation with those who are going to be most directly impacted by it. Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask Mr. Kraus on this issue. In EA areas, the approving officer is the Ministry of Transportation. It's not us. So I'm wondering how that might impact EA people. And then the second part is there had been a movement to have private sector building inspections where there was a problem speeding up building inspections. And I wonder if you have any comments on those two issues regarding this particular bill, or if this bill will impact those initiatives.
Through the chair, it's correct that rural subdivision is done through the Ministry of Transportation. One of the problems with this bill is it's unclear how it'll actually address some of the speeding up that's wanted out of this. So it speaks a lot to speeding up the development process. So I think they're talking about new home construction mainly, not so much subdivision. And to that second point on building inspection, yes, there was talk about that, but very few or no local governments that I can think of are doing that private model. And frankly, there's already a professional reliance model. We all rely on it. There's engineers and architects that are involved in all the projects. This legislation appears to be trying to go one step further where local government has no say and must accept everything that that professional has said. And I think that's the concern. So I think that no one that I've seen respond so far has said that they're against professional reliance, just not entire professional reliance.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? On the motion, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. New business. We have a piece of new business from Director Laird.
Thanks. I'm asking that the board approve an exemption to the electoral area grant and aid policy to increase the Nicola Valley Museum and Archives Museum allowable grant to $6,000 for the purpose of purchasing handheld auto guides for the museum. I move that.
Seconded by Director Houghton. Thank you. All right, discussion. No. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Is there anyone else with any new business? Nope. All right. Anyone with a notice of motion? All right. I move then that the meeting be closed under Community Charter Section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the board considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district, and 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the regional district and the provincial government. Second by Director Middleton, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. All right, we're moving into closed. If